checking in on the other end today. Okay. Good morning. Welcome. Last one of the week. This is a level 2 class today. I don't think that you're really going to need many props. We're going to do something, a slightly different flow from last night. So you shouldn't really need many props. You might want to have a block because we are going to do balance at one point. You might need a block underneath your hand. Also, if you use blocks and stuff for like folding when we're sitting down, have those. And straps you probably won't need unless you know that you like to have one around you. And I think that that should be it. I think that you should be good with just a block, just in case. And yeah, today might be a little bit more challenging. We're gonna do a few like side plank pieces. Not a few. There's two parts of it that involve a side plank each. So it's not a huge amount of side plank work, but there's a little bit of it, and there's opportunities to modify as well. So just like every other class that we do, just modify where you need to. I will do that as well. I just kind of figure out what's going to work for my body this morning, and I do that. And I think that's it. So let's just go ahead and get started. If you're going to use music, you can go ahead and get that set up. I know I mentioned playlists last night in the level 2 last night, and I added a link to a playlist to last night's post as well. So if you're on Spotify and you're using that playlist again, it's Sweater Weather Instrumentals. Like I said last night, it's a pretty chilled out playlist, so it's a good one I typically use it when I do yin because there's nothing unexpected that comes up in the songs. So it's a good playlist just to have on, just for some like background noise. But if you've got something else you want to put on, pop that on. And I think that's it. Here we go. Child's pose, please. Whatever shape of child's pose works best for you. Again, this is a level 2, so I will give you some modifications for things, but I might not go as in-depth into those modifications as I maybe do in a level 1 to 2 practice. But just work with what your body's giving you this morning. It might show you a little bit of resistance in areas that you're not used to. It might be showing you a little bit more opening in some areas than you're used to. Take maybe 5 more deep breaths here. Breathing in and out through the nose. Allowing your breath to be a focal point for your practice. Something that if during the practice you find your thoughts starting to wander off of the mat, you can invite them to focus on your breath again. That consistency. If you need a bit more time in child's pose, just stay there, take it. When you're ready, use an inhale and bring your body up into tabletop position. So once you're lifted, hands under the shoulders, knees under the hips, fingers spreading wide. Take a deep breath. Cow tilt. Inhale, drop the belly, lift your chest. And cat's tilt. Exhale, round your spine. Again, inhale, cow tilt, dropping the belly, engaging the muscles of your back to open the front. And exhale, engage the muscles of your front as you open your back. 3 more. Just following your breath. Letting the consistency of your breath warm up. Working on syncing your breath with the movement of your body. Again, inhales are opening breaths.
And exhales are closing breaths. Once your final exhale is completed, come back to neutral on the inhale, bringing the gaze down between your hands. We're going to warm up the wrists a little bit. So keep spreading the fingers, keep the knuckles pressing down onto the mat. Don't let them lift. And just rock forwards a little bit, keeping the arms straight. Rock forwards, bringing a bit more weight into your knuckles, and then rock back. Just getting a bit of stretch through the backs of your forearms. Again, rocking forwards, shoulders over the fingers, and then back. And one more. Forwards and back. And then go ahead and have a seat back towards your heels. Flip your palms upwards so that your fingers are facing back towards your knees. Now from here, you can move your hands a little bit further out away from you, but you don't want a whole lot of weight in your hands here. Your weight is mostly in your legs. Straighten the arms out and rock back a little bit. So you're now getting a stretch through the front of your forearm. And then relax, coming forwards a little, and two more just like that, rocking back. The knuckles again can think about pressing down. It's the tops of the knuckles this time rather than the bottoms. Rock forwards, releasing a little bit, and then one more, rocking back. And then forwards, release the hands, shake them out a little bit, a little release for your wrists. We're going to do one more for your wristing if we can start to activate your forearm muscles so that your wrists are supported throughout the practice. So hands come back down under the shoulders. This time, again, knuckles stay down. Your thumb is probably going to lift off the mat here. That's okay if that happens. Push down through the knuckles and lift your wrists up off of the mat. So you're probably going to feel a little stretch through the backs of the fingers here as you do that. Now with control, lower them back down. So what you're not doing is you're not kind of pulling your chest up and using all of the other body muscles to lift your chest out so that you can get your wrists up. You're actively pushing through the knuckles and pulling your wrist up off of the mat, using the muscles of the lower arm here in your hands. Go ahead one more time, lower the wrists back down, and then push down through the knuckles, lift the wrists up off of the mat, a little stretch, a little engagement, and then release, wrists back down towards the mat. Preparing your first downward facing dog. Your hands should be pretty warm by now. Tuck your toes under, lift the knees and the hips, reach the chest back towards the toes. If you need to check your stance and make sure that your hands and feet are a good distance, you can shift into plank. Otherwise, just stay where you are. Everybody back to down dog if you went forwards, and then take a little bit of movement here, maybe 3 to 5 breaths. Maybe bending one knee, just walking the dog, pressing into the opposite heel, shifting back and forth. You can also draw the bent knee underneath the body, getting a little bit more opening in the opposite side of the body. Just another 2 breaths maybe. And then go ahead, come back to stillness at the center. Look forwards. Keep your legs straight for as long as possible and slowly tiptoe your feet to the top of the mat. Hips are high, weight shifts into your hands, the belly is lifting until eventually the feet are underneath your hips. Knees bent a little bit. Relax the upper body. Grab the opposite elbows if it feels good, otherwise just leave the arms hanging. Again, you can stay here in stillness or you can find a bit of movement if it feels nice. Head might shake a little bit, yes, no. The upper body might sway a little bit back and forth, side to side. And then when you're ready, you can come back to stillness. Release the arms if they're bound. Keep the knees bent and roll up one vertebrae at a time. Driving down through the heels until your head is the very last thing to lift. Feet can come towards one another. Toes are gripping the mat. Balls of the feet are grounded. Outer edges of your heels push out. Take a deep breath. Pelvis tucked under a little bit. Lower ribs down. Shoulders back. One more here. Inhale, arms reach up, look up. Exhale, arms down by your sides. Watching that nothing else in the body changes. The ribs don't pop out, your hips don't shift back. Same again, inhale, reach up. Exhale, arms down. Last one, inhale. then fold. Exhale, hinge at the hips, hands coming towards the mat. Knees might bend. Inhale, flat back, lift your chest. Some of you, your hands will come onto your shins to help with that length. Some of you will be able to keep the palms or the fingertips on the mat. Exhale, fold, release. Same again, inhale, lift. Now as your chest is coming forwards, your pelvis is tipping up behind you, working to flatten out your lower back. Exhale, fold. Last one, inhale. Back to plank. Exhale, plant the palms. Step both feet to the back of your mat. First option, knees are down. Second option, knees are lifted. This is your very first chaturanga. On the next exhale, bend the elbows, lowering. From here, elbows are squeezing into your sides. The chest, the belly, the thighs are hovering off of the mat. First option, cobra. Second option, upward facing dog. If you're in cobra, hips are down, chest is halfway lifted. If you're in upward facing dog, tops of the feet are pressing down so the rest of the body is floating. Take 1 or 2 more breaths. Find the shoulders again. Shoulders go back and down. On an exhale, downward facing dog. Either pushing down through the knees or pushing through the tops of the feet and roll over your toes. Take 1 or 2 more breaths here. And on your next full inhale, look forwards. Step or jump the feet between the hands. Lift the chest halfway. Exhale, fold. Coming to standing with a flat back. Inhale, lift the chest. Continue all the way up, lifting the arms. Lift your gaze. Exhale, arms by your sides. Surya Namaskara A, Sun Salutation A. Inhale, arms reach up, look up. Exhale, fold. Inhale, flat back through a vinyasa. Exhale, plant the palms, step or jump the feet to the back of the mat. Chaturanga, bend the elbows. Inhale, cobra or upward facing dog. Downward facing dog. Exhale. Again, maybe 3 breaths. Creating length in the body here. The knuckles are pressing down. The chest is reaching back. And the hips, the pelvis is tipping up and pulling towards the back wall. 1 more. I think that was a few more than 3 breaths. On your next inhale, look forwards. Step or jump the feet between the hands. Lift the chest halfway. Exhale, fold. Inhale, halfway lift the chest. Exhale, plant the palms. Lunge your left leg to the back of your mat. Left foot lunges back. Left hand is down. Right arm turns up into your twist. Front heel is grounding down, back heel kicking away from you, both shoulders rolling back. 1 more. 3-legged down dog. Exhale, right hand to the mat, right heel kicks back. Take 1 more breath here, reaching a little further back through the chest. And then finding a bit of opening. Keep that floating leg straight. Bottom leg might be bent a little bit. Floating leg stays straight. Roll your right hip up towards the ceiling. Hips are opening towards the right side of your mat. Take 1 or 2 more, lifting a little higher through the right leg. And then close the hip. Bring your right hip back down in line with the left. Into your lunge, crescent lunge. Right foot, floating foot is forwards once again. Both arms lifting up towards the ceiling. Front knee on top of the ankle. Front knee a little bit out over your pinky toe, not collapsing into your hip. Send it out. Glute is switched on. Take 1 more. Into your fold. Exhale, hands down. Left foot steps up to meet the right. Inhale, flat back, lengthen. Through the other side. Exhale, plant the palms. Right leg lunges back. Right hand is down. Left arm reaches up. Think about if there was a line running straight down the center of your mat. You want your hips and your chest to still be on that line. Even though your hips are facing the mat and your chest is facing the left, you're not letting your top shoulder tip back away from the center of the mat. You want everything just to be a center rotation, turning your chest upwards. So your shoulders are now stacked on that center line of your mat. Take 1 more here. 3-legged down dog. Exhale, left hand down, left heel reaches back. Take a breath or 2. So again, imagine that center line. Notice if the hips and the chest are all balanced over that line. Adjust if you need to, and then start to open. So your left hip spins up over your right. Now as you spin that hip up, your right hip is gonna come underneath you a little bit so that you're stacking the hips, not just by lifting your top hip up and throwing it back, but by bringing the bottom hip underneath it as well to balance. Take 1 or 2 more, lift a little higher through the left leg. And then close your hip, bring the left foot forwards, crescent lunge, both arms up. Take another breath. Front leg is strong, back heel kicks away from you. When you've had enough, Uttanasana fold. Exhale, hands down, right foot comes up to meet the left. Inhale, flat back through Vinyasa. Exhale, plant the palms, step or jump the feet to the back of the mat. First option, knees up, first option, knees down. Second option, knees up. Chaturanga, exhale. Cobra or upward facing dog. And downward facing dog. Inhale, crescent lunge, right foot between the hands, both arms lift overhead. Now, first option, back knee can set down for this next bit. Second option, the back knee just stays lifted up. Take the hands behind you, interlace your fingers, finding a bit more of a back bend. Reach back through the knuckles, squeeze the shoulder blades together behind you. Your chest is lifting up, your rib cage might be coming up with it, but you're not collapsing forwards in your belly. Keep pulling the belly up and in. Take another 2 or 3 breaths. Maybe reaching back a little bit through the knuckles. And then coming back up to the top. Lift your chest, release the bind arms overhead. Exhale, hands to the mat. Runner's lunge. Front leg starts to straighten out. Might not get all the way straight. If you've got blocks and you know that they work here for you, you can pop them underneath your hands. Don't worry about it if you don't have them. Take 1 or 2 more. Kick a little stronger through the front heel. Pull a little further back through your right hip. Last one. Then release. Bend your front knee. Lift your chest halfway up so that your upper body is now in line with your back leg. Arms reaching out to the sides. Digasana, airplane pose. Bring your weight forwards into the front leg. Back toes maybe need to step forwards a little bit. Eventually back toes come off of the mat. Eventually you might start to hinge a little bit into your front leg. Take another deep breath. Shoulders are pinned back. Chest is pulling forwards. Back heel kicks out. Standing split. Exhale, hinge further, hands come to the mat. Your front knee can bend, your standing knee can bend here. Don't worry too much about keeping that standing leg super straight. Floating leg, however, is straight. Quad is active to straighten the knee. Glute is active to lift the leg. Take another 2 or 3 breaths. First option, stay right where you are. Second option, take a bind with your standing ankle. So one hand can take a hold of the ankle, that might be enough. If you want a little bit more, the second hand can also take a hold of the ankle. Don't lose the fold if you're taking the bind. Take 1 more. Release the bind if you've got it. Inhale, flat back, Vinyasa. Exhale, step or jump the feet to the back of the mat. Modify it where needed. Exhale to Chaturanga. Inhale to Cobra or upward facing dog. Downward facing dog. Other side. Inhale, left foot steps between the hands. Crescent lunge to begin, both arms lifting up. So your pelvis here, you can go ahead, bend your back knee a little bit and make sure that your pelvis hasn't tilted back, it's tucking under. Then kick through the back heel again. Don't take the hips with you, keep them supporting your lower back. Then hands behind you, interlace the fingers. Inhale, reach back through the knuckles. Exhale, reach through the arms, taking the knuckles a little further away from your back, maybe moving into a back bend. 2 more. Back to the top. Inhale, reach up, releasing the bind arms overhead. Exhale, hands to the mat. runner's lunge to begin. Front knee starts to straighten out. So if you think less about the knee going back, that might work for some of you, but you can also think about the length from the heel to the hip. Your heel isn't going to go anywhere. That's grounded on the mat, so you're driving through it. Your hip pulls back, which will take the leg straighter as it goes. Take another 3 breaths. Last one. Bend your front knee. Lift your chest halfway up. Arms reach out to the sides. Digasana, airplane pose. Shift the weight into your front leg. Back toes might float right away. They might step forwards a little bit into Digasana. Kick a little stronger through the back leg. Chest is reaching forwards. The rib cage is drawing up. With control, standing split. Exhale, hands to the mat. Right leg is floating. Again, standing leg might be bent. Floating leg is strong. Inhales, lift the floating leg higher. Exhales, fold the upper body deeper. First option, stay. Second option, bind. Taking one hand to your ankle. Stay close to that standing leg. The other hand eventually moves to the ankle as well. When you've had enough, release the bind, down dog or a vinyasa. Inhale, flat back. Exhale, step or jump the feet to the back of the mat. Taking whatever option suits you best. And then everybody into child's pose. Knees to the mat, hips back towards the heels, and the upper body settles down. Maybe 2 or 3 more breaths. Again, letting that consistency of breathing be a focal point, be something to focus you into your practice. And when you're ready, when you feel settled, downward facing dog. So once you're lifted, coming in a 3-legged down dog, your right leg lifts up. That was a lie. Bring your right foot back down. Your left leg lifts up. Left leg is lifted. Open the hip. Spin your left hip up, just like you did at the start of the class. This time, bend your left knee. Keep the chest reaching straight back. Maybe gaze underneath your right armpit. See if you can catch a glimpse of your left toes. First option, stay right here. Second option is to flip the dog. If you're flipping the dog, do so with control. Take your time. Continuing that opening of your hip, taking the left foot to the mat behind you. The left arm comes off of the mat. The chest is open. If you are upside down, when you're ready, you're coming back around, pushing through the right side of the body, lifting the hips, spinning back over, 3-legged down dog, left foot down to the mat. Inhale to plank. Feet together, side plank on the right side. First option, right knee is down, left arm goes up. Second option, spin onto the outer edge of your right foot. First option, stay right here. Second option, whether the bottom knee is up or down, back top foot floats. Final option, bind. Bend your top leg, reach back with the left hand, take a hold, maybe a little kick through that floating leg. Release the mind if you've got it. Back to downward facing dog. Hands to the mat, hips go back. First option, child's pose. Second option, a vinyasa, and then child's pose. If you're taking the vinyasa, follow your breath. If you chose the vinyasa, take child's for a couple breaths. And then everybody is preparing for the other side, as if one side wasn't hard enough. Inhale, coming up, and then sending it back into downward facing dog. So setting up the other side here. Once the upper body is balanced, 3-legged down dog, right leg lifts up this time. So the right leg lifts. Start to open the hip. Spin your left hip up towards the ceiling. Your left leg underneath you is still really active.
Then bend your top knee. Keep reaching back through both shoulders. Maybe look underneath your left armpit. See if you can catch a glimpse of your right toes. Right knee lifts higher. First option, stay. Second option, flip the dog with control. Shifting the weight into your left side. As the right foot comes down, the chest is open. If you're flipped, start thinking about coming back around. Lifting the hips, pushing through the left side. Bringing the right hand back to the mat. And then setting your right foot down, everybody, back into down dog. Feet step together. Inhale, plank. You're almost there. Stay with me. Side plank on the left. Same option from the first side. Either the left knee is down or you're on the outside of your left foot. Right arm lifting. First option, stay. Second option, top leg floats. Final option, bend your top knee. Reach back with the right hand. See if you can take a hold. And then maybe kick. Release whatever binds you've taken. Plank, downward facing dog, same two options. Child's pose or a vinyasa and then child's pose. Or maybe you do like me and you ignore all of that and you take a sip of water. Whew. Child's pose if you're not there already. When you're ready, downward facing dog. Warrior two. Your right foot steps forwards between your hands. Your back heel spins down and the arms windmill open. Front knee, a little bit out of the pinky toe. Front knee is forwards on top of the ankle. Hips haven't collapsed towards the back wall. They're directly underneath your shoulders. Reverse warrior. Flip your front palm up. Bring your back hand down onto your back thigh. Inhale, lift up through the top arm. Exhale, reach back. As you go back through the upper body, the lower body doesn't come with you. Keep that front knee forwards and out over your pinky toe. 2 more. Last one. Back to the top. Inhale, lift up. Now the front leg goes straight. Trikonasana. Inhale, reach forwards through the right fingers as far forwards as you can. Exhale, right hand comes down towards your right leg. Left arm goes straight up towards the ceiling. Couple deep breaths. Focus on the opening of this front inner thigh, the opening of the hips, and the length of your upper body. 2 more. Last one. Bring your gaze down. Ardha Chandrasana, set that block out like a foot out in front of your front toes if you know you're going to need it. Bend your front knee. Right fingers reach about a foot out in front of your toes onto the mat or a block. Back toes might be able to float right up into it. The back toes might need to step forwards a little bit first and then start to come up off of the mat. First option, keep working on your balance. Second option, if you want to take this further, that same bind you just had in your side plank. Bend your floating knee. Reach back with the top hand. Move slowly. See if you can take a hold of the ankle. And then maybe kick back a little bit through that heel, a little bit of opening. 1 more wherever you are. If you have the bind, release it. Now listen closely. The arch of your floating foot is going to meet the heel of your standing foot. So start to lift up through the top hand. Your floating foot comes down just behind your front foot. So again, the arch of your left foot meets the heel of your front foot. Your hips and your chest are facing the left side of your mat. Inhale, arms reach up, look up. Exhale, fold, hinge at the hips, reach over the left side, over your left toes. First option, hands to your thighs. Second option, hands to your shins. Final option, hands to the mat. Couple long breaths. Long spine, drive down through the heels, reach back through your hips. Back back to the top with a flat back. Inhale, lift the chest, continue all the way up, lift the arms, lift your gaze. Exhale, arms reach forwards and back. Returning to Ardha Chandrasana. Now this is going to be a little bit awkward because we don't usually come into it from this position of your legs, so take your time. Shift the weight into your front foot and lift your back hip a little bit so that that back leg comes off of the mat, but the leg is still straight and strong. Then start to hinge, keeping as long a line from your head through the chest, through the hip to that floating foot as possible as you come through. Really slow. Standing leg might bend a little bit. Hands eventually reaching to the mat or again to your block. Take one more breath here. Warrior two, bend the standing leg, left foot grounds, reach up through the back hand. Well done, that one was tough. You're not just done on this side just yet, so one more. Exhale, your right hand comes to the outside of your right foot. Now this is just a transition, so don't worry if it doesn't look perfect. Side plank, first option, right knee onto the mat underneath you. Second option, right foot underneath your left foot. Final option, right foot floats underneath you. If the foot is floating, the toes are pulling high. Flex the ankle, kick out through the heels. Take one more. Downward facing dog or a vinyasa. Hands down, right foot steps back. Again, if you're taking the vinyasa, you'll notice that I have been skipping the last few. But if you're taking it, chaturanga, up dog, and down dog with your breath. When you've completed, when you're ready, other side. Inhale, your left foot steps between the hands. Warrior two, back heel spins down, arms windmill open. Take a second to adjust again here. I spoke last night about how you might need to change your feet a little bit. So if you're coming from crescent lunge, your feet are typically going to be about hips width apart. If you just spin your back heel down and then try to open, your back heel is going to be a little bit out away from your front. So you might need to heel toe that front foot in a bit so that the heel of your front foot kind of lines up with the arch of your back foot. You might need to do that, you might not. But just be aware, sometimes different postures need different adjustments for different bodies. So once the legs are set, keep the hips underneath you, keep the front knee forwards. Reverse warrior, flip your front palm up, back hand onto your back leg, inhale, lift up, lengthen first. Exhale, reach back. 2 or 3 deep breaths. Lifting through your back ribs as much as you are through the front ribs. Last one. Back to the top. Inhale, lift up through the left arm. Front leg goes straight. Triangle pose. Inhale, reach forwards to the left fingers. Keep going, keep going, keep going, keep going. More and more length. Once you can't get any further, left hand is down, right arm is up. Just 1 or 2 more here. The positioning in this posture translates really well into your balance. So the power through the back leg, the opening of this hip, and the length of your upper body is all going to transition almost directly into your balance. So when you're ready, bring the gaze down, bend your front knee. Front fingers about 1 foot out in front of your toes, on a block if needed. Back toes maybe slide forwards first. They might come right up off of the mat. Your rib cage, your lower ribs, draw them back into the body. Make sure you're not shooting them out. Now your first option, stay here, focus on the balance. Second option is that little bind. If you're it's not actually a little bind, it's a pretty big bind actually. Bend your floating knee if you're going there. The right hand comes behind you, reaching back, seeing if you can grab a hold of the ankle. And then maybe you start to kick back. Your chest will come forward or out to the right side of your mat a little bit to kind of counter the weight that is now moving behind you. One more. If you took the bind, release it. You're coming up into that awkward fold again. So start to lift up through the top hand. Active body, active belly, and active left leg. Lifting up off of the mat. The arch of your floating foot comes to the heel of your front foot. Once you're there, make sure the hips are still facing the left side. Your chest is still facing the left side. I meant right. Inhale, arms reach up, look up. Exhale, fold. Now as you hinge, again, same options. First option, hands to your thighs. Second to the shins. Final to the mat. Your right hip, the hip that's at the back of your mat at the moment, that hip wants to drive behind you, trying to lengthen that right side of your body a little bit further. Tendency will be for that hip to collapse towards the back of the mat. Pull it out. You've got maybe 2 or 3 more. Drive through the heels. Lengthen through the sides of your body. Then with a flat back, come to standing. Inhale, lift the chest, continue all the way up. Arms lift, gaze lifts. Exhale, arms reaching forwards and back. Back to Ardha Chandrasana, back into that one-legged balance. Shift the weight into your left foot, coming forwards a bit. The right hip lifts up so that your right foot can come up off of the mat. Start to hinge. You're hinging into your left hip here. Left knee will probably bend as soon as you start to move. That is a good tip to use. Your left hand is reaching towards the mat or to your block. Take 1 or 2 more breaths. Then think about your landing. Control the transition. Take care in your feet placement. When you're ready, warrior 2. Bend the standing leg, push back so the right foot goes pretty far back behind you, lifting up through the right hand. Side plank. Take your time. Exhale, left hand to the mat. Your left leg is going to go into the same position as the first side, either knee down, the foot comes underneath the back foot, or the foot floats out from underneath you. Lift up through the right hand, and then step that left foot back into that same position from the first side. If you've got the foot floating, the toes are pulling up towards your face. 1 more. Down dog or vinyasa. Hands to the mat. Whatever option works. Everybody into child's pose. Knees down, hips back, and relax the upper body. Downward facing dog. Coming all the way through into a seat. When you're ready, look forwards. Inhale, step or jump the feet between the hands, have a seat on the mat. So we are coming into a couple folds here. So if you do need it, set something underneath your hips. Help with a little bit of elevation underneath your hips. That'll help you to lengthen your spine and straighten the legs. Everybody have your legs straight out in front of you to start here. Coming into your first fold. Active quads, flex the ankles. Inhale, lift and reach. Exhale, hinge at the hips, hands towards the legs somewhere. Shins, ankles, or feet, whatever is available to you. Just another 3 breaths here. Inhales continuing to open the body. Exhales continuing to close. And then release. Come back up to the top. Bend your left knee. Bend your left knee up towards you. And then drop that left knee out to the side. So you're coming into Janu Sirsasana. I think usually we do this on the other side first, but you know what? Why not switch it up a little bit? So your left knee is bent, and the left foot is pressing into the inner right thigh. First option, stay here. Second option, if you have pretty happy hips and ankles and all of that, knees and everything, you can come into half lotus, taking your left heel up into your right hip crease. So you're not on the top of your thigh, and you don't want to really be on the top of your ankle as well. You want to be flexing the ankle so that your heel is kicking up into your hip. That just helps to protect all of the joints and everything in that leg. Wherever you are, right leg is straight, the left heel is kicking into the body. Inhale, lift the chest, reach forwards. You guessed it, fold. Exhale, hinge, hands towards this right leg somewhere. Again, shin, ankle, or foot. The chest is continuing to open on the inhales. The hips are continuing to hinge on the exhales. 2 more on this side. To the top. Inhale, lift the chest, release the left leg,
and then you're just switching to the other side, to the right leg. Bend your right knee, drop the right knee out to the side. Either stay here in Janu with your foot pushing to your inner thigh, or bring that heel up into your hip crease. Flexing the ankle again. Inhale, reach. Exhale, fold. Really powerful legs here. Both legs are really strong and active. You're kicking forwards through the front heel. You're kicking in through this top heel. Last one. And then release, coming back up to the top. Release the right leg, let it go straight. Now, bend your right knee once again. This time put the right foot on the outside of your left thigh. First option, stay here with the left leg straight. Second option, bend your left knee as well, so the left foot winds up on the outside of your right hip. Some of you will do that and you'll kind of be off to the side. Your body's going to be hitched off in a funny angle. If that's the case, just kick that bottom leg straight again so that you can ground through your right hip. Either works fine. Twisting. First option, left arm around the front of your right leg. Second option, tricep over the knee to the, I'm going to adjust my microphone here, to the outside of your thigh. Right hand onto the mat behind you. Take just maybe 3 deep breaths here. Ground down through your hips, lift up through the chest, rotate in your ribs. One more. And then release, come back to the center. Now, for your transition to the other side, we're gonna have a little bit of fun. If that front leg, bottom leg is still straight, go ahead and bend it. This is only for the transition, don't worry. Now roll forwards so that your feet are on the mat and that back knee can be down as well. Then lift up your left knee so that both feet are on the mat. Now, keep the feet as they are. You're just gonna kind of rotate, pivot around the balls of your feet. Walk the hands to the left, all right? You're walking the hands to the left. You'll feel your legs unwind. You're gonna keep going, 360 degrees until you're all the way back around at the other side, and then you're gonna sit down. And you should have made it to the other side. I've completely wound my microphone wire up in me. If you're not there, that's okay. If you are there, just continue to settle in. If you're not there, take your leg straight, bend your left knee, left foot on the outside of your right thigh, right leg is either straight or bent. Twist. First option, right arm around the front of the leg. Second option, tricep to the outside. Left hand behind you. Inhale, lengthen. Exhale, twist. 3 to 5 breaths. If you need a little bit more time there, take it. When you've had enough, come back to the center. Down dog or a vinyasa. Roll forwards over the knees, step or jump the feet back. Taking the vinyasa if you'd like it. Coming into pigeon pose. Bring the right knee all the way up behind your right wrist. Set the shin down onto the mat. Back knee sets down as well. To set this up, your front foot, it might be able to come forwards. Don't force it if it doesn't want to, but it might have a little bit more space forwards to come. Flex that right ankle a bit. Again, just protecting the leg. Back knee might now be able to walk back, which will take your hips further back and lower. It might not. Again, don't force it. Now, if you've got a block around you, you might need that block underneath your right hip for a bit of support. You might not. Your first option is to stay exactly where you are, stay upright. Second option is to fold. If you're folding, upper body can start to come forwards. Maybe just dropping onto the forearms. You might not even get to the forearms. You might stay on the hands, just inching them forwards a little bit. You can continue and fold all the way down onto your upper body. Just maybe 3 deep breaths here. Letting your right hip, that's the hip of your front leg, pull back the way as the chest is pulling forwards. And when you're ready, slowly start to come up and out of that fold. Back to downward facing dog.
Tuck your back toes, lift the back knee, send the right leg back. Move around a little bit here if you need to. Vinyasa if you need it. It's not necessary though if you don't really want it. And then coming into the other side. Look forwards, pigeon pose, left knee sends forwards behind your left wrist. Back knee can set down. Same things here. Front foot maybe comes forwards a little bit. Make sure the ankle is flexing. There's some engagement in that front leg. Back knee might walk behind you, pulling the hips back and down. Again, your block, it might want to sit underneath that left hip for a bit of support. Might not. And when you're ready, you can either stay upright or you can start to fold. Most of you will be able to do the same thing on one side as what you did on the other, but for some of you, you might have a pretty significant difference from one hip to the other. That happens, and when that's the case, you just have to adjust where you can. Just another 3 deep breaths. And then starting to bring yourself back up and out, downward facing dog. Tuck your back toes, send the left knee back, left foot back, excuse me, and again, just pedal the feet out, bend one knee, push the opposite heel. And then come back to stillness and prepare your very last vinyasa. Inhale to plank. Exhale to chaturanga, strong legs. Inhale, cobra or upward face. Exhale, downward face. Coming all the way through into a seat. Inhale, step or jump all the way up and through. And then come on down onto your back. Knees into your chest, roll back and down. Preparing bridge pose. Feet to the mat. Feet are about hips width apart. Heels just out of reach of your fingers. And the heels a little bit wider than your toes. Grip with the toes. Ground into the heels. Press through the palms. Inhale, lift your hips. As the hips are lifting up, shoulder blades walk together underneath you. Hands might stay where they are, pressing into the mat. They might interlace underneath you here. Wherever you are, the power of your legs isn't necessarily getting your hips higher, but it's moving your chest further back. 2 or 3 more. And then release. Release the bind if you've taken it. Separate the shoulder blades and just roll down 1 vertebrae at a time, making sure the lower back unrolls last. So we're going to take just 1 more back bend. Now you can do the same thing. If that felt really good, just stick with it and do it once more. Your next options are either taking a bind in bridge, which is where I'm going to go and I'll take you through that, or you can move through a full wheel, Urdhva Dhanurasana. If you have that in your practice, go for it. I'm not going to go into that and I'm not going to talk you through it. So if you don't know what I'm talking about, don't worry about it. If you do want to take that further variation of your bridge, then your feet, you're going to work to get a bind around the fronts of your ankles. Now you can see for me, I need to come way out of my usual setup for a bridge pose. That's okay, just so long as once you get up into it, you're going to be able to reground your heels and get your knees so they're pointing straight forwards again and not way out to the sides. That's all good, all right? So take a really strong bind of your ankles if you're going into this next deeper variation of bridge. Pull the heels back down, lift the hips up, walk the shoulder blades together underneath you. Again, heels want to ground, knees pointing forwards. Drive through the legs so the chest is open. Keep a really strong hold. 2 or 3 more. When you've had enough, release the bind, separate the shoulder blades, and then 1 vertebrae at a time. Come on back down onto the mat and just take a second. Let that final back bend settle in for a moment. The lower back is grounding. And then draw the right knee into your chest. Wrap the arms around the right leg. Release the left leg long.
And then draw the left knee up towards you and release the right leg. And bring both knees up. Both knees pull in for a breath. And then go ahead, release the knees, set the feet to the mat. Twists. Shift your hips to the right side of your mat. Hips move over to the right, but the shoulders can stay at the center. If you want a deeper twist, it's your right thigh crossing on top of your left thigh. Otherwise, just keep the knees together just like they are. Draw the knees into your chest wherever you're at with the legs, and then drop the knees across to the left side of your mat. Once the knees are out to the left, your gaze goes out over your right shoulder. Now adjust here as you need to. Your knees can change their height in relationship to your chest, maybe bringing them higher up to your chest. You might get a little bit more sensation. Further away, you might get a little bit less if you're already feeling too much. You can also unwind the legs if the bind has proven to be a little bit too intense. Keep breathing here, still maintaining that long, intentional breath through the nose. And then returning to the center. Draw the knees up, release the bind, hips back to the center, and then knees into your chest. And then coming into the other side here. So set the feet down. Shift your hips to the left side of your mat. If you're crossing the legs, it's left on top of right. Knees into the chest, knees to the right side of your mat, and then the gaze goes over the left shoulder. When you're ready, come back to the center. Knees into the chest for a breath. And then preparing your Shavasana. So grab props if you need them, pillows, blankets. You can start to create the favorite shape for your body if you've got one. Otherwise, legs can just go long to the mat. Arms can release by your sides. Palms facing upwards. Close the eyes. Shavasana. Release the fingers and the toes. Release the ankles and wrists. The knees and elbows. Let the hips sink down into the mat as the legs flop open away from one another. The shoulders melt down as your breath returns to normal. Your lips may slightly part as you release your jaw, letting the tongue come away from the roof of your mouth. Softening the space between the eyebrows. Softening the space behind the ears. Listening to any sounds that may be around you. Letting them wash over your body, creating stillness. Watching as your thoughts come in and out through your mind. Letting them finish, letting them pass. Without creating any attachments to them. Finding the space that exists inside your mind. And finding some peace. Beginning to deepen your breath. Beginning to wiggle your fingers and your toes. Circling the ankles and wrists. Rocking the head from side to side. Inhale to reach the arms overhead, reaching long through the fingers and through the toes. Exhale, draw the knees into the belly, wrap the arms around them, giving yourself one last big hug, rocking from side to side. Eventually winding up on your right hand side, using your right bicep as a pillow. Remaining in Shavasana with your eyes closed. And when you're ready, press into your left palm, coming up to any comfortable seated position. Palms may press together at chest center if you choose. May you take only what is offered, take only what you need, and always give more than you take. Stay safe, stay kind, stay patient. Thank you. Namaste.